today I thought we'd work on a boss. So I've added a few things to the room just to make it a bit more lively. I think the lanterns help it pop, plus also keep it lit up during the night to try and prevent some mobs to spawn. And the doorway I think is new as well. Should we actually just take a look? I've got command box hidden. So this is the exit command, so leave. And what it does is it puts in the chat, leave the dungeon. So if we actually click on it, we get teleported outside. Then on this side, we've got the opposite one, which I can't quite get to because I'm surrounded in barrier blocks, which we'll get to in a bit. So in this side, we've got the entry command, which is a bit different. You just need to grab a button. So let me show you. Yeah, so if we click that, it says Barrier of Makar, which is the name of the dungeon, and then it says click to cross through the barrier. So if I click it, I go back inside. There are a few more things I just want to quickly show off on the outside. What I have here is a command, and it's the fill command, but it's using the replace setting. So if we look at the granite there, and then we click the button, it disappears. So essentially, I could build it so I could see the whole barrier perimeter, and then just replace it all using a command, which I think is quite useful, especially for building large areas. This one is the square perimeter. So essentially we're going to set up a boundary that tests for whether or not the player's in or out, and it has to be a rectangle or square. So these edges, although they're not part of the dungeon, if a player was inside it, on the ground there, they'd be considered inside the area, and we don't want that. We don't want them to trigger the boss unless they're actually inside the dungeon. Grab the barrier and show you. So yeah, so it's fully surrounded in barrier blocks. If we hop down here, this is where I'm going to hide all the mechanisms. So I've actually built one layer already. So this is the coin flip machine, and I'm going to be using quite a lot of these. So we'll build one together now, and I'll sort of go through the components. So first off, we just mimic the same sort of area. Yep, so that's the base you need. Ooh, missed one. And then we're starting here with a dropper and a hopper facing each other, so that when we pulse the dropper, it sends the item to the hopper and then back to the dropper. From there, we need a comparator to read the hopper, and then it should be 2 redstone. Yep, and then a repeater goes into a block. This side also goes into a block. Redstone torch, redstone torch. I think it's just one. Yep, one, then a repeater, then a comparator, and the comparator has to be set to on. Otherwise, it won't carry the signal when we run this side into it. We don't need that one. Do we need that all? No. Yeah, so this side's on, which limits the strength of this. So if we turn it off, we get full strength. So it's minusing this side from that side. So essentially what that allows us to do is have 2 chains. One is an on-chain and one is an off-chain. And every time this picks an item, it will either trigger the positive chain and turn it on, or the negative chain and turn it off. And when it comes back on, it will of course trigger the command block. We chuck them here. Right now we have a way to pick between the two. So if we actually put in the items we need, 1 stone block and 1 sword. So anything that stacks to 64 and anything that doesn't stack. You can mess around with snowballs, but I found making a compact machine was much easier just with the 2, rather than trying to figure out the strength of a snowball, which stacks to 16, a block which stacks to 64, and a sword, which doesn't stack at all. But we'll just go ahead and we'll chuck a button on, so I can show you it triggering the 2 different command blocks. So there, it triggered the outside. Now it triggers the inside. So this will allow us to, if we say put 1 in between, we'll pick between the 2, which then pick between the 4. And that makes us able to generate a random number between 1 and 4, or in the case of the dungeon, different attacks. First one's definitely not that pretty, but it should be functional. So I think we'll hook up a clock. Right, let's see, make sure everything's working. It looks like everything is functional. I might just chuck some commands in these blocks and we'll test it out properly. So I've been watching for a bit and it does look like we should be fine. I did miss a few things. But other than that, we've got all the numbers in the chat now, 1 through 8. So that tells me they're all working, which is good. So we've actually set up 2 chains. So for instance, the hard mode trigger will set off this chain, which will trigger 1 through 8. And then the normal chain will trigger just 1 through 4. I think that's the best way to do it. Right, so everything's fairly set up now. It's everything we need for the first boss. One last thing. So all of these up to comparators. You can see 2 of them flip on straight away. We'll get into that in a second, but we'll just sort of see what happens when we head up there. So I got close and it said, welcome. And you'll notice a mob. So up here we've got the boss, the first boss of the game, Runescriber Edric. And you can also see in the text box it's counting. So I am going to replace all those numbers with his actual abilities. If we just hop outside quickly, we can sort of walk around. 1, the counting should stop. And you... Ooh, there's a bit of lag, so still a few things to work out. And there are some spots where we can actually hit the trigger. So I do have to reduce the size, it seems. It's by 1 boundary. So he does spawn, if we go away, he should die. Next step is just to implement those attacks and work out a few little bugs. We should be good to go to try them out. Alright, so I figured out what I'm doing wrong. To my understanding, I thought this is coordinate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which it's not. So for instance, I have it set to 1525, which is what I thought the boundary was. When actually, if you take a look at the coordinates, so we go outside of the 25, so to 26. If I jump, they still turn on. I still enter the dungeon. So the issue was, I'm sure a lot of you may have figured it out, the DX, DY, and DZ, I've been using them completely wrong this entire time. They're just additional values. So this is 1502 plus 1525 instead of 1525. So lucky we figured it out in this first bit, because boy, if I had set up a bunch of places and then come to this realization. So I'm just going to quickly fix that, work out exactly the distance. So like this one's 23 and that one's negative something. So I'll work them out, I'll fix it all, and we'll come back and we'll probably try the boss. Right, so here we are. So I think I'm going to sleep first because I don't really want to attempt the boss while that's going on. But yeah, so I fixed up everything that needs to be fixed up. Made all his attacks, as you can sort of see in chat there. There's a lot to go through, and we'll try them out as soon as these guys decide to disappear. We can actually just get rid of them ourselves. Phantom, yeah. Bye bye. All right, so we'll hop into survival. Oh, well, we'll pick that up. Yeah. Just thinking I need some health. So we'll chuck on some iron gear. So this is meant to be a starter boss. So hopefully iron is tuned right. Let's begin. I'm not in the correct game mode, I just realized. And I'm nearly dead, that's worse. Right, we can show off his moves for a bit. So at the moment he has 4 different attacks. One where he puts these markers in the ground. Then another when he can detonate them. So you can actually destroy them by obviously just taking them out of the frame or destroying the frame. It's the whole idea because you want to get rid of them before he puts way too many. Actually seems to be somewhat challenging now. It's good. There we go. All done. Right, so I've grabbed the hard mode item, this Mark of Peril, which as it says there, activates hard mode in beginner dungeons. So this will actually change him a little bit. So instead of having just 4 moves, he'll have 8. Yeah, so he's got a few different words now. Ooh. So I do want to sort of get most of the moves in the chat so we can go through them. As you can see, you can summon some stuff now. Definitely a lot. I actually had more, so I was going to make him place 3 every time, which I think would have gone a bit out of control, and we are actually dying. But there we go. Still the common drops? Unfortunately, yes. So he's got 6 drops. Weapons, he's got helmet and boots. Helmet, boots, and the 2 weapons are both a bit more exciting than just the armor. But yeah, so the item frames also disappear now. So we'll actually take a look in chat and see what he does. So he's got a few of these inscriptions. So Edric places the rune Beast under everyone, Dampen under everyone, and Storm under everyone. A little typo in the Storm. Good to check. So yeah, so Beast. So that's the one that summons the silverfish. So for every rune that's placed, when he activates his detonation, it will summon 1 silverfish. So Dampen is weakness and slowness on the player. That's near. So it's like you may have seen the cloud effect under him, which is the splash potion. So it's like that. So every item frame has that. I have the particles hidden, I'm pretty sure, though. And then what else? So runic barrier. So inscribes upon the floor a rune to give him protection. So in that case, that rune is one you actually need to get rid of. So as long as it's on the ground in this arena, or any of them, because he can use it over and over again, he gets 5 seconds of, I want to say, absorption 3, which is 12 hearts. So you got to swing twice to break it. So it adds on a little bit of extra health. Seething Madness. That was the potion effect around him. So his madness pours out, slapping everyone nearby. So it's instant damage. So if you're standing right next to him, you take damage, and he of course heals as he's undead. Doomed Fate. So Edric inscribes a Doomed Fate upon anyone nearby. So the way I have that set up is he gets slowness, and then if you're actually touching him, so in the same block as him, he will almost one-shot you. The other thing you can note is the different colors. So green is him buffing himself, red is obviously a damaging effect, it's bad, danger, and then yellow is something environmental. So you have to watch the environment and the arena to deal with the yellow. The green is something he's doing towards himself that you usually will have a way to impede. And then red, of course, is just be prepared to take damage. Other than that, we'll probably move on to showcasing the actual mechanics through the redstone, the command blocks. We can take a bit of a look, and I can fix up some of the things I need to fix up. So the first thing first was the Storm typo. I believe it should be to this chain. Nope. Other side. To this chain. Under everyone. Right, so we'll start with this side. So these are 4 tests. So 2 of them are on now, and 2 of them will be on when we're actually in the arena. So what they do is they detect if a player is in the arena. So this one if they're outside, this one if they're inside, and then these 2 detect if the boss is in the arena. This one if he's not, this one if he is. And then they go to 2. So this one has 2 because it's now testing if I have the item with me. So if the mark apparel is in my inventory, I'll activate this longer chain. Otherwise, we'll activate the standard chain. And all these are doing is fixing the circuits up here. So as you can see, that one turned on because I have the mark apparel. If I go back down, toss it out. Now this one activates. So all that's doing is deciding which chain to run. This chain leads to all 8, and this chain leads to just the bottom 4. This one summons him and sets a spawn point right outside the arena. And then this one kills first. As I was saying, we'll actually see it now. We just want to put that back. So this one kills items, and this one kills entities. This one's excluding the player, and then because this one's set to items, the player doesn't matter. So it'll kill any mobs or bosses that have been summoned in the arena. We take a look over at this chain. I'm actually going to break these comparators so that it doesn't run, because I do have the height set a bit low, and there's a lot that I'd have to change to fix that. So it's just easier if I break the comparators. So yeah, so we've got the 2 chains running, and they're just timers. I think the hard mode is slightly quicker. It's like 3 seconds, and then this one's 4 seconds. So every 3 seconds he uses an ability, this one every 4 seconds. So all it's doing is using that flip coin machine to flip a coin and decide between top or bottom, and then top or bottom again with these 2. So now the juicy bits. So each of these will have at least 2 units. This first one checks if he's in the arena, that's that top line right here, and then runs a tell raw command, which is the little text box in chat. In this case, they all have their hover effect, where it's a bit more lore-y, I guess you could say, about what he does. I don't want to give away exactly what he does, though I'm tempted to say, you know, like, what's this one? So he places a rune that will summon, or places a rune that will give him absorption unless the player destroys it. I mean, I could say that. I think this way is a bit better and leaves a bit more mystery, and you have to sort of figure it out, because I won't be going through all of this with every single one I do, just more so this little first tutorial one. And then the second one is the actual action. So in this case, it says here to run at the entity to summon an item frame with a piece of paper with named protection. And then this last one is just looking for any of that. So if there's an entity, so the boss in the arena, and if there's an item frame with the name protection, it will give that entity absorption. The more complex one up here is the actual different runes. I'll put them all in chat and we'll just go through them quickly. So it should start here. So again, it's executing at the item frames. Anyone named Storm, it will summon a lightning bolt. Anyone named Beast, it will summon a silverfish. At the ones that say dampen, it will place the area effect cloud, which is actually what the splash potion uses. This one is probably the other interesting one. So this one says execute at entity name, and then it runs an effect and targets every player within a distance of 2 blocks. And it will give them instant damage. But yeah, so this one obviously looks different. So I've tried to use repeaters to make a delay. So this one triggers and triggers because I'm actually just sending the charge through the blocks instead of these ones which run off. So this is conditional. You can tell by that little change where it's got the arrow instead of just a simple, we'll call it a house. So this is runs on the condition that this one ran. So it's nothing to do with redstone, whereas this one needs redstone, needs say always active. The scale of this compared to an actual dungeon I want to build is minuscule. Like this is just one boss. And I think on average I want each dungeon to have 3 to 4. So this is going to be a lot bigger. For each boss I need to build essentially the same machine. I think I can squish it down more as I rebuild it and plan a bit better. I almost think I can probably just stack all the coin flips on top of each other and use redstone to run between them. So make the bottom one, maybe if I flip it, make the bottom one run around, hit the next 2, then they hit the next 4, something like that. I definitely think I can do it more compact. I mean, I don't mind this. It's nice building space, easy to do. You just use the fill command with air blocks and then, or even just fill command hollow bedrock. Last, if you just take a look in the bottom right corner, you can see I've updated the map. And this is actually what I'm sort of going for. As we build different things, I can use this as a way to check my progress. So there it is, a little boss arena. I can also sort of figure out where exactly I want to build next and what I want to build. We'll go into survival. We'll hop in. So the other thing is, as you can see, I've put this in purple. So I'm going to make all clickable things in purple. That way it's a bit more distinctive and separates it from the little info. And also change, instead of saying welcome, I'm just going to put dungeon info. So if you hover over the dungeon you're in, because this pops up right as you enter, it'll tell you more about it. So in this case, this is a beginner dungeon with 1 boss. So I can say the difficulty and then the number of bosses you have to sort of look for and hunt down. So we'll hop in, give it a crack, probably equip everything before he gets to me. Yeah, so he doesn't do too much damage, but if you stay close to him. Of course, I am in netherite. So I think as a beginner, it's pretty on point to the difficulty I want. You know, you have to be sort of aware of what you're doing, but it is still a bit like a normal mob. The other thing just for now, I've tweaked so we can go through all his drops. I'll grab them quickly. But yeah, and then hard mode's a bit more difficulty with especially the added moves. Delete the arm stand. So there's one other thing I had to do. So the arm stand that was here, I had to encase, because essentially this is the goal, is to get the arm stand that you can teleport to from this boss. So I had to encase it so it wasn't being destroyed by lightning, but I think on the cleanup, when I remade this, was the issue. So we just got to add type equals, and then type in, sorry, it's Minecraft. Oh, we'll just look, because it should be near the top, because it's a arm stand. Yep, and it's already added the exclamation mark, which means exclude. That's the other thing, you can sort of use some of his own things to help deal with him. But there are lots of things you don't want to just sort of sit in. Let's put this back. I think I want to do the boots first. Well, it shouldn't matter because the block doesn't appear till after. But yeah, so you can still run up. I've tested it, you can grab everything, and if you use return to come into the dungeon, it's fine as well. You can get out. I've left the gap big enough. We'll hop outside. Okay, so green is my uncommon items. So it's just really iron armor with some toughness. And then the sword is the same as an iron sword, with less speed but more armor. And you might notice the negative attack speed. So that is actually, so it swings still at the same speed as a normal sword. Because if I left it blank, you'd swing it like before the combat update. And that's useful, and I'll probably make use of it on some items. But it's also one other thing I can sort of tinker with. So I can have a slow sword that hits hard, or a not slow sword that hits weak. And just tinker around with those a bit more. So the axe is the same. The axe is negative 3.2, which makes it actually 0.8. So they're the uncommon drops, so they're a bit easier to get. I think it's 50%, 50%, 30% chance that he drops them. And then the 2 other items of his armor. So we've got the Insightful Cap, which gives armor toughness, health, speed, knockback resistance, and armor. And then the boots. And so this has the lore tag, which I went on briefly in the first episode. So I think next episode will be that. We'll work a bit more on the hub and sort of implement the rest of the features to make use of this lore slot. But essentially, it just means this item has its own ability. So in this case, it has Quick Foot, which will probably just be speed, obvious, but from the name. But then also it gives armor, knockback, and toughness. So it's the same as iron again. I've made all the same as iron, even though it's leather and chainmail, but with toughness. So it's sort of slots between iron and diamond, that bracket, which I thought would be useful, and where I kind of want to place all the beginner stuff. The novice will probably be diamond or better, and then going forward you'll need my equipment to take on the later dungeons. So lastly, the axe. So the axe has the least chance to drop, and it is purple. So purple is epic, rare, uncommon. We'll use standard RPG procedure. And so it has its own ability, barrier, which sort of mimics the ability he can use. And then in your offhand, this is important. So you can either use it as a weapon, it's just a really strong axe, or you can have it in your offhand and it'll give armor, toughness, as well as max health. And the max health is the important thing, because it's a percentage rather than this one, which is a flat +4. But other than that, I just want to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. See ya.